So let's continue from where we left off. What I've actually just done is to remove the hard-coded secret we had over here, put in our .env file under a new name called gwt secret, and now we are retrieving that and putting that in here to generate our token. And so what I would want us to do next would be to more or less work with cookies first, and then we'll talk about sessions. So, and to keep things as simple as possible, I'm just gonna go over to utils, maybe create a file, and I call this cookie, cookie.go, not ts. Create a file called cookie.go, and of course it should be on the package utils. So what I would want to do more or less would be to just create two functions over here. So the first function would allow us to, I'll call this persist cookie like this, and so it's basically going to let me think a little bit. So I think it's basically just gonna let's say take the gene contest, take a gene contest, and it's let me think a little bit. It's for now, let's just say it's still gonna return the contest. It's gonna return the contest, or it returns an error. So the point is that I would want us to, so apart from this cookie, I'm just gonna keep this as simple as possible. Here I'm gonna provide the token, and it's gonna be of type string. It's going to be of type string. So what we would do here is actually pretty straightforward. What we would want to do more or less is to, when we call this function, we persist the token as a cookie to the client, so that of course this client can use this in subsequent requests. And the kind of cookie would be persisting will be HTTP only cookie for security reasons. And what it means is that this kind of cookie that would not be accessible more or less using JavaScript, and it will of course be appended in every authorized authenticated request that will be coming from the client after we've persisted it on the client. And so what I would want to do here is pretty straightforward. I will just call the set cookie function, and here I just provide the name. So I can call this access, so I'm going to call it access token, so that would be the name of the cookie, and then the value of course would be the token that we provided. And the next one I provide would be the max age. So I'm just gonna maybe make this for, I think we already had one for 24 hours. So and that should be, so if I Command Shift P and I go to Quokka, and here I can say console.log, and here I can have 60 seconds multiplied by so 60 seconds, so for a minute, so this of course will be a minute, and then for a minute, so this is 1 minute multiplied by 60 minutes for 1 hour, and then we multiply for a whole day, 24 hours, and it will give us around 86,400, and that's the value I would like to provide here. 86,400. So this means our token will be valid for a day. So path more or less would be, so you have the option to say persist certain cookies and say this particular cookie will only be appended into the request if you've seen certain path. But what I would want to do is maybe just put it in the root, so that each time you make a request, this would be provided to us again, without having to more or less change anything actually. So it's just going to be in the request, it will always be there in the root, and then we decide what we want to do with it. So the next thing of course we have to set would be the cookie domain. So for now I'm just going to say localhost, and of course you can already imagine you get the option to say, if you have your website at example.com, you have the option to say, okay, the domain here would be example.com, and what it means is if you go to any other web page that is not example.com, you will not have this cookie available. So basically, this is a way to also help you specifically store your cookies for specific domains. So the next thing we would of course need to set would be to secure, and I'm gonna for now keep this as false. And the last is HTTP only. I want this to be true, so this will be HTTP only cookie. And then the next thing maybe I would want to set is I can call this let's say set cookie. I would like to set the age of the cookie so we don't have to decode the cookie anytime just to check what the expiration date is. Just simple trick. So we can call this cookie something like cookie exp for expiration, when our cookie will be expiring. So the value would be, again, we'll put our 86,400. And so the max age, again, it would still basically be the same. So our path, as also like we did up there, would still be this. Our domain would be localhost for now. We'll set the secure to false, and then we'll set HTTP only to true. And so this should actually be a string, of course, should be a string. And the next thing I would want to do here is to set the same site. So I can say set same site, and I can put this HTTP same site. I want the strict mode, more or less. And I think that's mostly all I want to do here. And I simply I return C and nil. So actually I don't see us running into any error here, so I can just leave it like this. This should be fine. And so what it means now is we can actually go to our login page. So at this point, if everything works well, here we can or more or less, actually we don't need to return anything. I'm just going to remove this. Actually, there's no need really. Let's keep it as simple as possible. So we go to our login page and we say helpers I think we had it in utils. So utils.persist cookie like this, and then we pass C. And what is the problem? Not enough argument. Of course, we need to pass our token like this. And so what this would mean is, of course, when we log in, this will persist our cookie for us, and then subsequent requests, you will again see this. And I'm just going to show you this in a minute. So but just to make this clearer, what the next thing I would want to do more or less to go to our logout page. So I'm just going to open this on the side so we can compare this and see what we need to change. I think this is so out of date actually, but it's totally fine. So when you click the logout page, we would expect, because we need to know, so for now we can actually just keep it simple. So what I can do for now is to come over here and then just copy, just keep it simple. I just create a new function and I can call this remove cookies. I'm just going to keep it simpler, a singular rather. So say pass our Gin context. This way we don't return anything. And I'm just going to do all of this. So I'm just going to copy this. And what I would do here actually is just make this an empty string. And again, make this an empty string. Basically, we just remove this. That's all we are doing. And then again, if we come here, we simply say utils.remove cookies. We'll pass our C. And that's basically all we have to do. So to test this out, I'm more or less going to open Insomnia, and then so you can actually see us persist and take out cookies. So if you don't mind, you give me minutes and I can quickly start up Insomnia. So right now we are in Insomnia, and I've taken the pleasure to actually come over here and add some endpoints. So what I already did, of course, is to visit HTTP /localhost and 8080, and then we go to v1/auth/login, and then I can quickly copy what we had from when we were testing with the HTTP file. So for our username and password, just copy that and bring it over here. And now we can visit the login page, and it still works as before because you are returning the token. But again, one cool thing is that if you go to this cookie tab, we now have the two things you are returning. We are returning the token again as access token, and then the cookie expiration set to 1 day. So if we go to manage cookies, as you can see over here, and we edit this, you see some of the attributes we set. So the key, of course, is this. The domain is localhost, and we actually not I have to verify to see why this value is not passed properly. But of course, you see here secure, we set this to false, and HTTP only, we set this to true. So that's really it. And what it means, of course, is that if we send any further requests, we will more or less have this appended to the request. And what it means again is, if we go back again to look at the files where we always adding this in the authorization header of all our requests, and we actually don't need to do that anymore, because if it's set at HTTP only cookie, it will always be appended to our requests. And of course, I have created also the logout endpoint. And then if we send the requests, what it's like we did is just going to take out these cookies. So if we go back to manage, we see that now it's gone. It's an empty string. Both of them are empty strings. And that's really more or less all we can do, because you don't want your users to still have access to the credentials even when after logout. So that is why at logout, we try to take out those credentials. So that's really one way of working with cookies. Again, just for your own information, you more or less, of course, don't have to always work with cookies, but this has adds an additional layer of security on your application, where you don't have to always put this in the requests, and someone can intercept your application, maybe with like from the browser, maybe using JavaScript. With HTTP only cookies, this will not be possible. You can always be sure that this is secure, more or less. The only thing is that if you have over here like 10 cookies and they all have the same domain and the same path, as you can see over here, if they are all of the same domain and path, then what it means is that if you make any requests, like with our own setup, every request we make here, we have this appended to the header. And what it means is that, of course, this would increase the size of our payload again, but that's why it's actually important to use this path attribute here to say, okay, I want this to be only appended maybe when you go to /v1/auth, something like that. That's really the idea here. So you get to decide actually which requests you would want to append the cookies to. And again, you don't have to always put this, if you have this in the cookies, then you don't have to always put this in the authorization header, because it will always be there under this name key, and then you can retrieve this. And then before we are doing the bearer token, and now you can take it from here, put it again, and then decode it, and then everything is again as it's were before, more or less. So that's really what I wanted to show you as it pertains to working with the cookies. And the next thing, of course, we'll look at briefly would be with working with sessions. So I will also try to make that as quickly as possible. But again, the point is that I would be happy knowing that you actually in the end understood what I'm trying to, of course, the information I'm trying to pass across. So we'll jump right in, and we'll see how we can work with sessions. So now we will talk about session. This is actually a very, very important topic, and maybe just to give you background information. So when it comes to session, this actually plays a really, really crucial role in web applications. And I can maybe, of course, give you a couple of those examples just so you have like or understand more or less why we are even talking about it in the first place. So the first thing, of course, would be authentication. So sessions are really, really commonly used for authentication purposes. Of course, if you're building web applications, for a scenario as this, so let's say a user logs in, and then you have their authentication details, for example, their ID, the roles and permissions, maybe they have your application, and this information you can actually store in sessions. And what it means that it is easily allow your application to actually reuse this information stored in sessions. So if, for example, you're storing the role and permissions on a database, you would not need to go to the database to fetch this data or do some further computation or whatever it is. You can basically actually just retrieve this from the session and then go ahead and make your decision, and then of course serve them the content they are supposed to see. And as you can already imagine, this of course improves speed and reduces the redundant operations. So instead of doing performing some redundant task, you can actually just take the permission, put it in the session, and then reuse that information. And of course, HTTP is a stateless protocol, and it means that every request is actually treated independently as it comes to the server. And so the server does not really know, like if you make two consequence requests, the server doesn't even know that the person who made the first is also the person making the second, because it's again completely stateless. So but with session, you can actually really know who any person is without doing like further computation. And that's really one cool way we can of course use this to maintain the state in your application. So again, you can actually use this to not really rely on, like, let's say writing your URLs, for example, for like it's actually makes it a lot easier, because again this could actually be error prone, but if you have this in the session, of course you are really good. And again, this can also is actually being used in tracking user activity. So things like when you visit a web page, the clicks, how you interact with it and stuff like that. What did you open, what did you not open, where did you get stuck and stuff like that, how long did you spend on certain pages looking at something. These are actually collected and be stored in the session and for further analysis actually. So it actually plays a really crucial role when it comes to web applications. So again, these sessions, when it comes to storage, so sometimes you can actually have to store this in memory, but this is really fast because you don't have to, you have it in memory and you can easily access it as quickly as possible when you need it. The only thing is, again, when you restart your application, this information is lost. So now you have to trade speed, you have to trade, of course, persistency, data persistency for speed. But other than that, there with sessions, there you could actually use a couple of backends. So these backends allow you to actually store this data in where they can be retrieved later. So even if you restart your application, you will not lose your session data. And so a couple of those backends, we will probably not be able to look at all of them, but the first thing I would want to show you, of course, would be like in-memory store of sessions. We'll look at it quickly, and then we can look at how we can, of course, maybe some backends. So we'll look at cookie based. Say in the previous one, that was also why I wanted us to talk about cookies first. So we can also see how we can more or less leverage our cookie to store our sessions, stuff like that. Sounds a little bit, but you will see when we get into it. So, but other than that, you can actually use some caching softwares to store your session. Things like Redis, for example, or Memcache, Memcached. And of course, aside of these two, you can actually store it in databases like MongoDB, like Postgres, Memstore, even Gorm, as the case may be. And the options are actually limitless. So, but again, for this tutorial, I'm just going to probably show you three options. So one would be storing this in memory. The second one would be cookie based. And the third might be just using Gorm to store this session information. So without further ado, let's quickly jump right in, and I am excited to show you how this works. So to actually work with this, we would need to add this to our server, our router engine as a middleware. And again, for now, you don't have to know so much about middleware yet, because we will actually touch up on middlewares somewhere along the line in this course. But for now, I just want you to think of middlewares as actually what they sound like. So you have operation A and operation B, and you want something else to happen in between A and B, and you could regard this more or less as a middleware. So it's more or less this operation you can actually have run in between operations to do things like maybe dependency injections, some validations, authorization processes, as the case may be. So the processes that are you have to run in between operations to perform certain tasks for you, we can just think of it for now as our middleware. So that's good. So to work with our middleware, of course, with Gin, I would like to install two packages. So one would be sessions and the other would be um, what else do we need? So we need sessions and we need, of course, a cookie. So I can show you this example with cookies. So we can get this from github.com / gin contrib and sessions. And the next one would be, I'm just gonna quickly copy this because it's actually pretty similar. So aside, instead of sessions, we can actually just have, what else do I need? So I can actually maybe just put cookie here, to actually show you this base first example. Yes, I think that's mostly what we need. And to, of course, use this is actually pretty straightforward. So we create a store. Again, like if you remember what we said, you can actually have this in memory or pasted in like data store. So, but for now, we are going to have this in memory. This will be the first example. So we go to our cookie and we need the new store and the new store function. And here we need to provide a secret that we're going to use to more or less for. So if you hover over new store, for example, we don't have, but we will quickly install this and then we can of course proceed. And then so when we create our store like this, the only thing we now need to do is to use it as a middleware, and there is this handy function called use. It's Gin router, and this is actually, if you look over here, it's also there is a middleware, but again, you don't have to know about this for now. We'll talk about this in the later sessions. So we go to sessions, that's session. Did I get that right? Sessions, that's sessions like this. Sorry. Sessions like this, and then we have to give it a name. So I can call it Golang guide, something like this. And then of course I provide the store. And this of course we call from our session. Did we miss something? Of course, no, this should have been sessions in session. So this is actually how it should be. And now we can install this. So go mod tidy, and everything should be fine actually now. So if we hover over store, you can already see, so this is our key pair. But for now, I really want us to keep it as simple as possible, but of course, what you have to know is there are some of these best practices as regards to what the length of this, of course, this key pair should be like. Now I'm just gonna use the word secret just to show you how this works actually. So we've created our store, and then we are adding this as a middleware to our routes. And that's basically actually all we need to do to initialize this. Again, we have to put this when we initialize our router engine, more or less setting up our server. And then we can actually maybe just go to, let's say, maybe logouts. This doesn't have actually so much functionalities for now. And so we can come to this endpoint. This is actually not doing much. And then we create a session instance. Of course, this is going to come from sessions.default, and we'll have to pass the Gin context. And what I want to do now is actually pretty straightforward. I will now try to actually access. So basically, you can think of this actually as a very, very simple key store, key value store. So put the value, and then you can retrieve it with a key. So what I can actually do is maybe try to retrieve a value. So I can say session.get, and then I need to provide the key. In this case, I'm gonna again keep it simple. So this would be a string. So I can call this something like user role, right? And then we say if this is not equal to, if this is not an empty string. So if this is an empty string, so if it does not exist, what I would want to do, of course, is to set it. So I say session dot set, and then again I provide my value. I called it user role, and the value maybe I'll say admin, something like this. And now of course I need to call the method session.save to save what we've done. And then what we can actually do is maybe modify these parts, and just so we add additional information, and here I can say user role, and actually just copy this one and put it here. So basically getting what we stored right away. So if we try to restart our server, go run main.go, and maybe I'm just going to open this up here on the side to make a curl. So I can go to localhost 8080, so v1/auth/logout, and did we do anything wrong? Of course, I made a mistake. So of course, if you hover over this, more or less, when the key is existent, we get the key, and when the key is non-existent, what we actually get is in nil. So so I can actually change this to nil. So if this is nil, then we set it, and of course, let me make it like this to make it readable, and then I can actually restart the server, and then I make the curl one more time. And now of course we get the admin. So this is of course one way we can set this. Maybe what we can actually do over here is to put a print message, and I can call this not saved, something like this. And you can see if we restart the server and try to go to this endpoint, we'll see that it will get here again, because we restarted the server, all of this is lost again. So we see here it gets to this point and it tells us it's not saved, but that's more or less it. And this is actually how you can of course store this session data in memory, more or less. Again, if you restart data, or your session data is actually lost. And of course, as you can already might be imagining, you can actually set multiple sessions at a time, so you don't have to actually just have one. So what it means is that if we go back to where we instantiated our session, if you look over here, we actually just created one session where we give it a name and then provided a store. So but if we wanted to add more sessions, what we can do is we can call these names, and this is where we can provide a slice of string, and then we provide, maybe I can have one for auth, I can have one for maybe let's say we have like accounts, I don't know, something like this. And now we can say r.use, again, session many, so we use this one, we provide the names, and we provide the store. So again, if you just want to set one, this is just all you need. If you want to set multiple, this is what you need. And of course, you have to again use the name of the session to actually get the things in that session. So what it means is that if we go back to logout, so here that we are using the default session, what we have to do here is we say sessions.default many, and here we have to more or less provide, of course, context, and now we provide the name. So the one of them was actually called auth, and here we would now have our session. So I can put this in here and take this one out. And so what's 1 second. Of course, I said default key, my bad, it should be default many. And now we have access to this session that contains, and now on the auth, we can actually add or update whatever it is we want to add under auth, and then if we also want to do something on the other one, which is called accounts, we can set it up like this to either retrieve or save attributes into this session. So that's more or less one way we can actually work with this in memory. But other than this, the next possible solution we can, maybe I just take this one out, it's not really necessary. The next thing I would want to show you more or less is how we can of course work with backends so we can persist our store.